Good day, all. The G-20 summit was held in New Delhi, India, from Saturday to Sunday this past weekend. India took pride in hosting this event as one of the fastest growing economies in the world, now the fifth largest economy in the world, overtaking the UK in 2021, and the largest South Asian economy. India's GDP growth rate of 8.7% as of 2021 is outstanding. The summit was held in the backdrop of the Ukraine war. The Russian President Vladimir Putin and China's President Xi Jinping were notably absent. President Xi's absence is reported to have been due to internal political challenges he faces within his party. He didn't want to present himself at the G20 summit as a weak leader. President Putin, on the other hand, has a warrant for his arrest as a war criminal, which prevents him from traveling across the borders of his nation. Now, there is also an espionage drama that occurred with the Chinese delegation that attended the G20 summit in New Delhi, which is under investigation. The strong strategic and trade partnership China maintains with Russia in the backdrop of the Ukrainian war was not something that was going to ride well with the majority of the nations that were attending the G20 summit. The military alliance between Russia and China now stands solidified with respect to the Ukraine war. Immediately after the summit, President Joe Biden had a state visit to Vietnam, in which both countries elevated their partnership to a new level. Although the purpose of the visit was portrayed as the strengthening of the economic ties Vietnam has with the U.S., the question still remains, why now? Vietnam has strong trade relations with the U.S., but this visit by President Joe Biden to Vietnam is obviously much more than strengthening the economic ties, although that is the stated objective. Vietnam shares borders with China. It is obvious that the visit also was an effort to mitigate the risk of Vietnam aligning with China and Russia with respect to the Ukraine war. Now, we do not know of any details of any deals struck with Vietnam to secure their non-participation with Russia-China alignment. It is well noted, though, that top U.S. officials were also present with President Joe Biden for this top-level unprecedented meeting. The Ukrainian war was not going very well for the Ukrainians. The Ukrainian defense minister was fired just a few weeks ago. Now, we know that you don't fire a defense minister if things were going well as planned. It was obvious that the Ukrainian armed forces could not make any significant impact in their counteroffensive against the Russian invasion. They could not penetrate past the miles-long Russian defense trenches. The Russians were dug in hard to withstand any counteroffensive by the Ukrainian forces and was very selective in their use of ammunition, leaving behind much of it in the interior. The Russians used the same playbook they used in World War II against the advancement of Nazi Germany. The Ukrainian forces did not have sufficient military equipment and trained recruitments to use the Western artillery supplied by NATO members. In fact, estimates are that the Ukrainian forces only had 1/30 of the ammunition and tanks they actually needed. That means they only had 1 day worth of supply of ammunition required for a whole month. So they made some success to save face and to hold the morale within their military ranks and to hold the public opinion to their favor by using drones to strike within Russia's interior, which was more of a symbolic in nature than of any military value. Now, the Ukrainians are supplied with the F-16 fighter jets by NATO, especially the U.S., which will be operable in about 4 to 6 months in order for them to have a successful counteroffensive, which will happen in 2024. Their military is now being trained for their pilots to operate the F-16 fighter jets and be combat ready by early 2024. Although F-16s are third-generation fighter jets, it will certainly change the mechanics of the Ukraine war to successfully take the war within the Russian territory in 2024. No one expects the Ukrainians to just park the F-16 fighter jets, which they acquired from the U.S., after training their pilots to be combat ready by early 2024. They are going to use them. Now, Russia also has more advanced fighter jets, which is destined to take the Ukrainian war into a new phase in 2024. President Vladimir Putin knows this, and he also needs extremely large stockpile of ammunition in preparation. The production of ammunition was not up to speed for both sides. So this next few months is the time when both sides are going to use to stockpile their ammunition supply in view of the new phase of the Ukraine war in 2024. The Russian President Vladimir Putin just had a meeting with the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un yesterday. The Western media has downplayed the significance of this meeting with Russia and North Korea as a desperate attempt from Russia to stockpile its ammunition supply from North Korea. Although it is partially true, it is obvious that the purpose of the meeting of the two leaders is not just the trade of ammunition supply to Russia in return of food and oil to North Korea, but more of a military alliance in view of the new phase of the Ukraine war expected in 2024. It can be obvious that President Biden's visit to Vietnam also has the same objective. It is not very difficult to connect the dots. So what are we looking at in 2024 with respect to the Ukraine war? It is obvious that it is going to escalate into a new phase in the beginning of 2024. There are no other factors expected that can change that within the next few months.